Stage 2's second week began last night as I attempted to watch all 4 matches live, but of course the night I chose to do this provided some of the most one-sided days of Overwatch League this season, so let's quickly get through what went down. This week's curtain raiser saw the Paris Eternal take on the Florida Mayhem, and I and many others were expecting this to be a relatively close and competitive series. This train of thought quickly vanished though, as Paris came out on fire with dominating performances from Shadowburn and Soon, which just saw the Eternal completely roll over the Mayhem, who had no response on Oasis, and quickly found themselves down 1-0. From here on, it got worse for Florida, as the match quickly became the Grey Show, who had an outstanding series that led him to earning the Player of the Match award. On Hanamura, an anti-nade set play from him destroyed Florida's bunker defense on A, before a Shadowburn Dragonblade gave Paris a 2-minute completion. The Mayhem, to their credit, were able to complete the map first time round, but their attacks were often very slow and kept being shut down by grey sleep darts and anti-nades, and in the end the Eternal had 6 minutes to take the first tick of point B, which they quickly achieved to take a 2-0 lead into halftime. Danier surprisingly came in for Paris after the half on Blizzard World, but little changed in how the match was panning out. Despite a decent hold from Florida at the first point, Paris just managed to scrape through the rest of the map, particularly singling out Swan like in the other maps. And to be honest, the Mayhem should have done much better in the overtime fights, but let their opponents finish the map. I thought Hagapan had a solid day, but the rest of his side were far below the quality of performance they had shown last week, as they were defeated in their final push to guarantee the series to the Eternal at 3-0. The last map on Gibraltar highlighted why so many thought that this series could be quite close. We had seen some success from the Florida defences throughout the day, but it finally came together on the second point of this map, with clever engagements and a very improved performance from Swan. With them only needing to reach the end of the second section, the Mayhem brought out the pirate ship comp, to which Paris had little to no response, which allowed them to blitz to their objective and pick up the map win, to put a little dampener on the Eternal's performance, despite still coming out on top 3-1. The series confirms that Florida will once again struggle, but they at least have a level of quality they can try to aim to consistently show, whereas Paris are trying to set themselves up for a playoff push, although it's hard to tell how strong this team truly still is. Game 2 saw the New York Excelsior versus the Washington Justice, and to be frank, this series was a harder one to watch. Map 1 on Lijiang perfectly summed it up, as the Excelsior looked strong and comfortable on their 3-3 comp, which brought them the win, but there were many times that the Justice, and in particular Corey, were able to get lots of kills and picks, just for his side to remain passive and not engage onto the point, despite the massive numbers advantage. A point to note was that Flower played the entire series for his side, and when he was allowed to flex off of Brig Hell, he was able to show off some moments of DPS quality that he was known for. But it was his teammate Jonak who again stole the show with some ridiculous fragging moments, including a 5k at the end of their Hanamura attack to lock down the point. Throughout the rest of the series, New York just looked unstoppable on attack, with Washington unable to find an answer, whilst their own attacks, which were sloppy, too passive, and relied too heavily on Corey to pop off. And even when he did, his team still often fell apart. So going into Junktown, the series had quickly and convincingly been wrapped up at 3-0. This final map saw a little more of a contest from the Justice, who did manage to stall the Excelsior to just before the end, whilst their pirate ship of their own caused a few problems. But in the end, New York's quality was too much, as they confirmed the 4-0 sweep with a Nene Grav to reaffirm their dominance as well as Washington's struggles. With the second match finally over, I was beginning to feel a little drowsy, but I was hopeful that the next series that pitted the Vancouver Titans against the Seoul Dynasty would be the entertaining wake-up call to really fix what had so far been a day of stomps. Minutes before it began, my heart and eyelids fell as I saw the Dynasty's lineup, in which saw Fisher and Fletter on the bench, with the team running their B-side, except with Michelle in for Zumba. Despite Seoul capping the point on Busan a couple of times, this map wasn't even close, with Bumper, Janu and Twilight having a field day, as they just tore Seoul apart to quickly go up 1-0. At this point, I thought that the experimental roster had failed, so they would just bring in their normal side for Anubis, but this didn't happen, and the Dynasty were punished for it, as the Titans posted their second fastest time on the map, and to my horror, it appeared that somehow this series was looking more one-sided than the 2 matches before it. Seoul managed to find some limited success, completing the map first time round, before Vancouver turned up a gear to hold them on A, and then quickly roll into the half with a 2-0 lead. At this point, I'd had enough and started to pack it in, and probably for the best, as Vancouver continued their onslaught into Eichenwald, showing no mercy, completing the map in another ridiculously quick time, before Bumper closed out the map before the second point, knocking off 2 Dynasty players with one swing, and shattering those who remained, to guarantee the series at 3-0. The third time today this had happened. Seoul kept this roster in for the entire series, and finally found some success on Rialto, where they held the Titans till just before the end, before winning the map themselves to finish the series 3-1. However, this final map win felt more like Vancouver throwing than the deserved Dynasty victory, as the Titans continued their streak of dominance. But more importantly, I'm now beginning to wonder whether the same demons of last year's coaching still remain with Seoul, as this experimental stuff they've been trying of late is clearly struggling, and shouldn't be over-exaggerated after its one-time success against New York in the playoffs. By this point, I'd gone to bed, and of course this meant that day 1 concluded with the series of the day as the Toronto Defiant went up against the Philadelphia Fusion. Both sides needed a win here to help them in their quest to make playoffs, with tough schedules ahead for both of them. It was Philly who came out of the blocks faster on Busan, and although the map went back and forth, it always seemed like the Fusion were in control, and the more likely of the sides to win, with Poco having a very good map here, and series overall. Toronto just couldn't seem to win the final team fights, often finding themselves with less ultimates available than their opponents, so they went down 1-0 after the first map. This edge for Philadelphia continued into their second map on Paris, which saw them capture both objectives very quickly, before putting up a better defense, which despite seeing the Defiant finish the map, gave the Fusion a significant time bank advantage. On their second attack, the Defiant were clinical, with only a limited time, and managed to finish the map again. Philly therefore had plenty of time to finish the map, but became stalled time and time again, which eventually led to one last fight, in which Envy clutched with a huge grab eat that eventually led to the Fusion off the point, and Toronto turned the map around to tie the series 1-1 at half time. Clearly, the main battle of this series that continued to its finish was between the Divas, Envy and Poco, who both had great series, but the storyline of the first half returned with Philly just having the edge. Despite some great plays from Ivy, Philadelphia just seemed the more coordinated of the two sides, and reached their objective just before the finish with over a minute and a half to spare. An almost repeat played on Rialto, with the Fusion holding the cards in the later important team fights, and with plays from Carpe and EQO managed to secure the map and thus the series 3-1, so they gathered some momentum before their tough games ahead, whilst Toronto showed that their team still needed to develop a little, with I'm37 still integrating into the side. I seem to be on a hot streak with my predictions this stage, having only got 2 wrong all of last week, and again yesterday I picked the winners in all 4 matches. Perhaps the only thing I would note was how one-sided the Paris and Vancouver victories were, in contrast to how I thought they would go, which is the main reason why it felt like a long day of matches. Looking forward to tomorrow, the LA Valiant look for their first win against the precarious Atlanta Reign. This is probably the best chance the Valiant have had for a while to get their first victory, with the Reign all over the place with their emotions and performances, and I think they might just break the curse here with a 3-2 win. I reckon Boston will finally avoid a map 5, be able to defeat the Spark 3-1, before the Shock for a second week in a row demolish their opponents the Guangzhou Charge 4-0. This leaves the Chengdu Hunters against the Shanghai Dragons, in what should be an entertaining Chinese team contest. But I'm keeping my faith in our Lord Armin, and the Hunters who I think will pick up the win here 3-1, and continue this tough run for the Dragons. With that, we've reached the end of my Day 1 review and Day 2 preview, and I hope you enjoyed. As a note which I'll mention in the comments, this weekend is looking to be a very busy one for me, so I'm not sure what my upload schedule is going to be. At worst, I might have to do a bumper review on Monday, so be sure to check my Twitter in the meantime, where I'll post my predictions if I don't have time to put them in a video. Otherwise, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, for this continuing Overwatch League content.